Your relationship with money started long before your first paycheck. Let's talk about why. A premium option can stop fitting your budget while stepping down still feels like a personal loss. The service remains useful, but the highest tier may no longer be necessary. The pattern becomes clearer when saving money feels less attractive than surrendering familiar benefits. Once premium access becomes ordinary, the simpler option is no longer compared with having nothing. It is compared with everything currently available. The central question is why paying more can feel easier than choosing a cheaper option that still provides the function you actually need. A private workspace, upgraded facility, extra convenience, or enhanced service can become the baseline against which every lower option feels incomplete. This episode will separate useful premium value from emotional downgrade resistance, then show how a lower tier can be evaluated without treating it as backward movement. Upgrades often begin with real benefits. More space, faster access, added comfort, specialized features, or reduced effort may genuinely improve the experience. Over time, those additions become familiar. What once felt exceptional can begin to feel normal, making the original basic option seem smaller than it did before. When income, priorities, or usage changes, the cost becomes more noticeable. Yet the thought of stepping down can create resistance beyond the practical difference. Now, the person may focus on everything that would be lost while giving less attention to what the simpler option would still preserve. The downgrade can also carry social or personal meaning. It may resemble reduced status, diminished success, or evidence that circumstances have moved in the wrong direction. This is not a character flaw. A higher reference point can change the emotional comparison even when the financial comparison remains straightforward. The key distinction is this. Losing a premium feature is not the same as losing the entire service, but the emotional response may combine those experiences. A reference point is the level against which change is judged. After premium access becomes familiar, that level can become the new mental baseline. Moving below the baseline is then experienced as a reduction. Loss aversion can make that reduction feel more important than an equivalent improvement once felt. The simpler tier may still solve the original problem, but attention shifts toward the removed extras because they define the visible direction of change. Adaptation contributes to the effect. Comfort and convenience that once felt optional can become expected after they are repeatedly available. Identity can add another layer when premium access represents competence, achievement, taste, or the kind of life a person believes they should maintain. Downgrading may then feel like revising both consumption and self-description. The financial action becomes connected to a broader story about progress or decline. The current decision should be separated from the upgrade decision. The relevant question is what each feature contributes now, not why the premium tier once seemed attractive. Loss aversion directs attention toward surrendered benefits. The quieter gains, such as flexibility, lower pressure, or resources for other priorities, may feel less immediate. A person may therefore continue paying to avoid a visible reduction, even when several premium features are rarely used or easily replaced. The premium environment can also create contrast effects. Returning to a simpler space may feel uncomfortable because every difference is noticed at once. That discomfort does not prove the simpler option is inadequate. It may reflect comparison with the recent baseline rather than failure to meet the core need. The response can follow a recognizable pattern. Protecting the higher tier preserves continuity and avoids confronting a change in circumstance or priority. Status meaning can intensify resistance when the premium level is visible to peers or connected to a personal narrative of upward movement. At this point, the cost may function partly as protection against feeling reduced. Understand the mechanism, then judge whether the expense remains justified. The financial consequence is not only the premium payment, it is also what cannot be funded while resources continue protecting a reference point. A feature-by-feature review can reveal that some benefits are central, some are convenient, and others became familiar without remaining important. The core service and the premium layer should therefore be assessed separately. A lower tier may preserve most practical value while changing only the surrounding experience. Past enjoyment should not be denied. The premium period may have been worthwhile then, even if current use, income, or priorities now support a different choice. A person may instead add new reasons to keep the tier, converting minor conveniences into necessities because admitting changed value feels like admitting an earlier mistake. Platform friction is not the primary explanation here. Even with a simple downgrade process, the emotional comparison can make the lower tier feel unacceptable. The mechanism may be strongest after a long period of premium use, during income change, or when the service has become connected to public identity. Awareness can improve the comparison, but it does not eliminate the felt loss. The first period after downgrading may still feel noticeably different. A rational exception matters. Premium features can provide genuine productivity, accessibility, safety, reliability, or specialized value that exceeds their additional cost. Frequent travelers, professionals, caregivers, or people with specific physical needs may depend on benefits that appear optional from the outside. Convenience can also have real value when it consistently saves meaningful effort or supports a demanding routine. Simplicity is not automatically the better choice. The limitation matters here. A lower tier should not be chosen merely to prove discipline, especially when it removes a function that is actively and deliberately used. Not every premium commitment reflects status protection. Some remain rational because replacement would be difficult, time-consuming, or more expensive in another form. Imagine two people using the same premium facility. One relies on specialized equipment. The other avoids downgrading, mainly because the basic space feels like reduced status. The validating test is specific contribution. Which premium features solve current problems? How often do those problems occur, and what alternative would replace them? The opening question can now be answered. Paying more feels easier when the premium tier has become the baseline and the downgrade is framed mainly as loss. The lower tier may appear costly because attention is fixed on surrendered comfort, access, or identity rather than on retained function and released resources. A downgrade does not erase the value previously received. It updates the arrangement to match present needs, just as the earlier upgrade matched a different moment. Continuing premium access also does not prove progress. It can preserve a familiar reference point while current finances or actual usage move elsewhere. Consider the next decision separately. Identify the core problem, the essential features, the replaceable conveniences, and the emotional meaning attached to the highest tier. Evaluate the simpler option in its own environment rather than only as a damaged version of premium. Ask what it enables, not merely what it removes. A temporary trial can reveal which losses remain important after adaptation and which differences mattered mainly during the first comparison. Current utility includes time saved, reliability, comfort, access, and identity meaning, but those categories should be named rather than blended into one feeling is. The resolution is not that premium spending is wrong. It is that premium value and downgrade discomfort should be measured as different parts of the choice. Begin by naming the core function you require today. Then identify which premium features directly support that function and which mainly preserve the familiar experience. Compare alternatives that solve the same problem, including partial access or occasional premium use. The goal is not maximum reduction, but appropriate fit. The pattern becomes clearer here. Notice whether the strongest objection concerns lost function, temporary discomfort, social meaning, or a story about moving backward. Keep premium access when the added value is specific, recurring, and proportionate. A deliberate expense does not become wasteful merely because a cheaper tier exists. Step down when the core need remains covered, and the remaining resistance comes mainly from protecting status, continuity, or an outdated reference point. Allow an adjustment period without treating early discomfort as proof of a bad decision. Familiarity can change after the new arrangement becomes ordinary. Review the outcome through actual function and financial pressure. The current decision should be separated from the past one and from the identity attached to premium access. A deliberate tier can be premium or basic. What matters is whether present value, not fear of reduction, determines the commitment. Stepping down can be an update rather than a defeat. Understand the pattern. Change the behavior. See you next time.